So I just got back from a trip to Chicago. And everybody knows, or maybe everybody knows, that I travel to Chicago about once a month and meet with my team, and we do these things. But something really interesting happened on this most recent trip to Chicago, and that is I have become like an expert parallel parker. Now, parallel parking has been a thing that I have not done well throughout my entire life. Because mostly I spend a lot of time driving in a place where that is not a relevant skill. Like I spend most of my time driving in Texas, but in 2020 I've driven to Chicago like 6 times, and you have to be able to parallel park well in a city like Chicago. Like the parking situation is just so cramped and so together that it's just something you have to be able to do. And this is the first time in my life that I have been able to expertly parallel park. Like there was this one situation where I had to park a van in a space that had about 6 inches of space on either side of the van, and I could get in the space just like that. And I was thinking about that, like how did this skill come to be? Like how did I get good at this skill seemingly overnight? And it made me think about teaching solution-focused brief therapy, about the practices of solution-focused brief therapy, because it didn't happen overnight. It happened with practice. It happened with repetition. It happened with constantly exposing myself to environments and situations where I need to be successful at parallel parking, and then I could do it. We're about to gear up here with my team and in my organization. We're about to gear up and do our annual couples therapy event, and we have a free masterclass that we do leading up to that. And it's about using the solution-focused approach with couples, and really kind of gets into the details and the nuances and like the nitty-gritty on how to do this approach with couples. And I realized that one of the reasons people struggle to work with couples is because they avoid it. Like I know a lot of professionals that when they get a referral from a couple, they send them to someone like me who's happy to work with couples. And the main reason I've been able to work with couples because I didn't avoid it. The main reason I've been able to work with couples is because of practice and repetition and continuing to work and hone my skills. And I think that's why trainings like this are so important, so that we can continue to hone, we can continue to work, we continue to practice. I promise the same thing that happened with me in parallel parking will happen to you in your work with couples. And what makes me know that is because I didn't always start off this way. Like I used to be very uncomfortable working with couples. I used to be very intimidated and very stressed out when I was working with couples. I used to try to avoid it. All of that, but what helped me is I was in private practice and I couldn't avoid it. I had a choice to make. I could avoid working with couples, or I could work hard to master the approach with couples so that I could be successful. And my fear was if I avoided couples, I'd be turning away so many referrals that my private practice wouldn't succeed. So I had to figure out a way to do this successfully. And I hope that you can benefit from what I have figured out. I hope you can benefit from what I've learned. Like the reason why we do this free masterclass is I want to cut down your learning curve, right? Like I want to make sure that you don't have to go through all of the struggles and difficulties that I had to go through, and I can just show you how to do it. But it does take some practice, it does take some focus, it does take some attention, and that's the sort of stuff that we cover. And so just realize it's so interesting the way that just last week this practical example came up about parallel parking, and I was like, holy cow, like that's how I've gotten good at parallel parking, just to continue to expose myself to an environment where I have to parallel park. And I want to help you get good at using the solution-focused approach, and I definitely want to help you get good at using the solution-focused approach with couples, because there's nothing more amazing in your life than when you can help someone have a happier, loving, romantic relationship in their lives. So anyway, just keep practicing, keep working at it. And I'm going to keep sharing material that helps you. But I hope my example of being able to parallel park remind you of how important it is to just keep working at your craft.